we've been following a bunch of the bills that you've been presenting over the last couple of weeks here. We covered this bill on human sexuality being taught in schools and making it an opt-in. I just want to hand the floor over to you for a little bit, because you always have, free speech on college campuses. That's another big one that we're really high on. Is there anything that you're working on now that you really want to make, that you really think needs help from the people? I mean, some of these things come across and they're just no-brainers, right? But is there anything that you feel you might see some pushback against, that you might want to have people contact their legislators on?
Absolutely. I believe the stronger pushback from this is going to come from the Senate, and that would be Senate Ed. And so it's where it's gotten held up before. But let's start with the sexuality. We're not talking about sex education. Okay. As long as we follow Idaho statutes on sex education, we're fine, because our statutes clearly delineate how sex education is supposed to be taught, and I'm fine with that. So, and it's about the physiology and anatomy, and involving the family. I'm fine with that. So the sexuality opt-in has to do with all of the other sexuality as it comes up. Far too often in the classroom, it can come up even in math class, like math class. And so let me just remind people, this is not about content. So the teachers can still teach that. And you're like, what? No, the teachers can still teach that, but they need to opt the children in, which means they need to get parental permission and opt the kids in to sexuality content. And then, I was just looking through my notes real quickly so I could just explain, which maybe you already have. Idaho does not have a human sexuality, and I say human sexuality because some of the ed lobbyists had made such a big deal of this in 2021. Oh, there's not a definition. And so we're providing a definition in our definition section. It's human sexuality. And so this is what it would, if you're teaching something that falls under this category. We're not talking about something like the Naked David in an art class, viewed through the purview of a work of art. We're talking about this. Human sexuality means sexual conduct, sexual pleasure, sexual intimacy, sexual abuse, sexual violence, eroticism, pornography, deviant sexual behavior, sexual attraction, sexual orientation, or any form of sexual identity, gender ideology, or gender conversion. That is what we're defining as human sexuality. If you're going to get into those topics, you just need to get consent from the parent. And, I had posed this because it had come up a few years ago on the Senate side, where one of the senators was kind of bemoaning the fact that this would be a lot of work on the teacher, that they're going to have to send these forms home and get permission, because, it has to be done 2 weeks beforehand, meaning you can't have this general opt-in form that everybody just opts into and we're done. No. Every time you teach it, and they were bemoaning how much work it would take. And I remember saying, Mr. Chairman, good senator, how much sex are you planning to teach the kids?
Great point. Great point. That's what I was thinking to myself.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We want to get back to the basics.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you were going to lead to that. We want to get back to the basics. How much are we really going to be focusing on all this stuff? And also the pushback that you had on, for instance, like you said, like the Statue of David and art, or even the Bible, certain sexual things that may happen in the Bible. It's like I don't know if it was Justice Potter or some Supreme Court justice when they talked about obscene material, it when you see it, you know. And so so when you read off that list,
they're the prurient. I said prurient, view. Yes.
Yeah. Like you know it when you see it. And we, the amount of harm that can happen to a child when they view something or they hear something, I think is worth whatever amount of work a teacher needs to do to help protect that family and that child. So I commend you on this bill, and we want to make sure that we're able to help protect the children in this. Yeah,
we do need to do that, and from other organizations, which I certainly adhere to, that if a child views sexual content, that is sexual abuse, and that is not your call. And so again, this is about consent, not content. This is about putting the parents in the driver's seat not the schools. And, again, you can still teach this stuff. And so the other thing this bill does is it also provides, something we didn't have before, a cause of action. But before a parent, uses that, it provides the school district an opportunity to remedy the situation, which is probably, a good thing. So, we're doing that. The campus free speech, believe it or not, Idaho has a problem. We have schools here that, are just recovering from a lawsuit up north and where they lost as they suppressed the free speech of 3 conservative students and a conservative professor. And so I have been working with Alliance Defending Freedom. Ironically, Alliance Defending Freedom represented these students in the lawsuit. And like I said, they won, Alliance Defending Freedom and their clients. And so it had gotten held up again on a supposed technicality on the Senate a few years back. And prior to that, it didn't pass. I hope this is a time. We've got 21 states. And as we'll say, as we point out in our legislative findings, that we're using Supreme Court language, black letter law. The language we're using is languages that the Supreme Court has used in defining what our rights are when it comes to free speech. And so they also said that one does not check their First Amendment rights to free speech and et cetera at the edge of a campus. The campus does not get to create speech zones, and we're talking outside. They don't get to create speech zones or send, the conservative Christian over to the North 40 to be able to pass out flyers or something. They can't do that. And kudos to Boise State. Truly, people need to understand this. We have worked very strong and closely for the last couple of years with Boise State. It is almost impossible to work with every single university, but Idaho State is fine. And, I'm pretty sure I hope to get some information back from Lewis and Clark. Even our community college has supported this, a couple of years ago, because it gives them clear direction. And that's what's intended here. So I hope that also will pass and codify what our universities need to be doing. So that, and then the last one that you're probably wondering about is our privacy and safety for women, meaning that our prisons will be designated for females only. I know, common sense, right? But this is following in what Idaho has been doing.
These
so
are easy layups for you.
You would think, although this particular one gets just a little bit tricky, which is why I think it's needed. So only women in women's prisons and only women in our domestic shelters. Heaven knows, especially in other states, that you have that antagonizer, that abuser, and once they find out that their partner or spouse or whatever it may be is being sheltered, they have absolutely gone in there and identified as female and with the intent to abuse. So, and who knows, when a man comes into a female space, especially when you come into the space of someone who's been abused, it is psychologically traumatizing to that female. It is wrong. Men do not belong in our private spaces. And then the final one would, of course, codify the same thing on university campuses, that when we have dorms that are designated as female dorms, they are designated as female dorms. That means that somebody who identifies as a female that's really a man, I'm not going to be subjected to, find out at the beginning of the year, oh, my roommate is really a man. And guess what? We're all going to be sharing the bathroom and the shower spaces with him. Yeah, can't do that. So,
yeah.
So
well, there's a case in the Ninth Circuit right now dealing with that issue at the high school level. We had that Senate bill pass 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 1100, and the Idaho Supreme Court ruled on it and said that the schools can move forward with their policies. But now it's sitting in the Ninth Circuit. We're waiting, and because it's in the Ninth Circuit, the schools are allowed to do whatever policy they want. And so I'm just sickened by it, because once again, this is common sense. What are we doing? Yeah. Putting our girls in harm's way, even just psychologically, like you just said.
Yeah, this is why they want to break up the Ninth Circuit. Just give it to California. It's just it's an absolute mess, and that's why they're the most overturned circuit in the entire circuits. U.S. most overturned, because the Ninth Circuit, they're terrible.
Yeah,
they're terrible. I could do a better job, and I'm not a judge. Anyway, so
all right.
But those are some of the big ones.
Yeah, very good. Well, we're gonna of course be behind you on all of these.
Thank you.
These are really important, and to the audience out there, we want to make sure that they are supporting this too. Where can people go to follow you and support you? Do you have any ways for people to just? I know I have asked you this before.
I'm working on a newsletter. We even have somebody
There we
to help
go.
so they could follow that, but I it's not done. So pretty much you have to go to my Facebook page, which is Barbara Ehardt, or my political Facebook page, which I don't know, maybe Meta's better now, but that's a little bit harder. But and then I've started to tweet, although I can't get my Twitter name fixed how I wanted it. So I'm just Barbara, like with underscore Ehardt.
That's
There are
right.
a few other Twitter things out there because I didn't know what I was doing when they were first set up. But my current one is Barbara underscore Ehardt at whatever Twitter.
Good.
I don't
Well,
know.
we'll make sure to tag you and link to you. No problem.
Okay, that'd be
All right.
great.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
good to
Thanks,
see you. We'll
Matt.
check in with you again. Yeah. Take care.
Okay. All righty.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye.